Okay, so let's go over another way of using gradients. In this case, we're going to go over the gradient mesh or the gradient mesh tool. So what this tool is going to allow us to do is to put blended colors on specific points on an object and have those points blend together. Now, I will say this is a very complicated tool. It takes a lot of practice and knowledge to be able to master this tool, but I'm just going to give you the general idea of how you go about using this tool. So the first thing to do is to select an object and to find the gradient mesh tool. So right in the toolbar next to the gradient tool, you have kind of this rectangular shape with it looks almost like a net inside of it. This is the gradient mesh tool. You can also hit the U key. So I'm going to click on that gradient mesh tool. And now that I have this object selected, as I move inside, I get a white arrow with a grid icon on top and a plus icon below it. So what it's telling me is it's saying, where do you want to add a point to start this custom gradient mesh? And so if I click just once, let's say here, okay, I'm going to add a point, and this is a point that I'll be able to change the color. So let's just go ahead and add a few points. We'll add one there, one here, and one here. And so wherever I add a point, it's going to give me basically a long horizontal and vertical line. I'll go ahead and exit out of the gradient mesh tool by hitting the A key for my white arrow. And in this case, I'm going to choose some colors to use to put on these points. So I've already loaded my landscape gradients. So if you could go ahead and find something similar to that, you could work alongside. And I'm going to select one of these points with the white arrow, and you'll know you've selected it because this point has control handles or direction handles, and it's really similar to being an actual vector path. But in this case, it's a path that goes along with the color. So let's go ahead and see what this does. So with that point selected, I'll find a contrasting color. In this case, I'll find like one of these light greens. Click once, and you can see it's added that color to that point, and depending on how long these direction handles are, it spreads that color out and then blends it to the object below. We'll go ahead and try that on another point. So I'll click on this one over here, and I'll find a contrasting color. Maybe I'll choose one of these. I could actually move that if I wanted to. Do that with another color over here. Choose this one. Maybe I'll choose a red right here. And so this tool is actually good for having a randomized look or abstract look to an object. So that's one of the things I see it commonly used for when people just need to add abstract color variety to a piece. I can actually choose the corners of the object as well, and those also act as mesh points. So I'll choose this bottom color here and then choose like a dark color. You can see I can actually start to change the shape and spread. Maybe I'll change this one to a dark color as well. So as you can see, this gets really complicated and tricky. I'll come back to my gradient mesh tool, and with this object still selected, I'm going to choose one point right over here, just right below the hair shape. I'm going to go ahead and fill that with a dark color and see if I can get kind of a cast shadow shape to this. See what I can do. I'll drag this direction handle out. And so if you got something similar to that, that will work. Okay, let's see if we can actually get a little more control in using this tool. So I'll go back to my black arrow tool, and I'll click on this hair shape right here. And instead of just going to my gradient mesh tool, I'm going to actually go up to my application menu. I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to go down right here, Create Gradient Mesh. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me a choice of how many rows, so moving left to right, and how many columns I want to have to break this shape up. I can choose how this is appearing on the shape. So right now, the computer is pretty intelligent. It's reading this shape and knowing that I want these color bands to kind of follow the contour. It doesn't always do that for you, but in this case, it was smart enough to do that. And I'll use 3 rows and 4 columns, and then I'll click OK. And I'm going to use this set of colors right down here. It's kind of like these fall colors. I'll use my white arrow, because you have to use your white arrow to select these points. And I'll come in and I'm going to use this column or this path here, and I'm going to color in what is similar to a core shadow. I'll see if I can get something that looks like this is a pear that's pretty ripe and it's in season, and it has one side that's almost like a red color. I'll select these points over here and choose something more of an orange. I'll choose these inside colors, and this time I'll just hold down on the shift key and select all those colors all at once. And I'll try that orange. You can see it kind of spread it over. And then this one right here, this will be my highlight color. I'll just go from here to here. So I'll just double click on my color picker and move this over white spectrum. Click OK. There, added kind of a highlight to that. Click outside, and hey, not bad. So that's just a general overview of working with gradient meshes. This does take a lot of practice, and you will probably get frustrated working with it at first, but the longer you work in Illustrator, the more you might find opportunities to use this tool, create either an abstract mashup of colors, or to get something that is approaching almost like a 3D modeling way of rendering colors.